All right, and welcome back to Logan Simmons Photography. Great to have you here, and if you haven't already done so, make sure you're subscribed there to the channel and hit that like button because I know you're going to love what you're going to see here today. Because today we're going to talk about a controversial topic, and it is Adobe Lightroom and why I don't use it. Now, I'm not saying this is the reason for you not to use it. I just wanted to discuss why I don't like to use it. So we're going to do a little comparison between Lightroom and the solution that I use, which is a combination of the Adobe Camera Raw plugin and Adobe Bridge, their file browsers. So actually, I want to start in Lightroom. I have loaded some pictures in here. Let's just kind of bring you through here so you can kind of see how it looks. I'm sure many of you have seen Lightroom before. We're currently in a library module, which basically allows us to browse our collection right here. And you'll see some other modules here like Develop, which is basically edit. We can see a map of where pictures were taken. We can make a book, do a slideshow, print something, or prepare it for the web. Pretty straightforward there. And of course, you see the pictures right there that I've imported there on the beginning. So if I go to Develop, let's say I want to edit this picture, I've got all my things right here, fairly simple, like you'd have in Adobe Camera Raw, because in fact, it is the same editing engine in Adobe Camera Raw as it is in Adobe Lightroom. So pretty straightforward. If you want to edit something else, you can tap this little menu here and transform or effects or lens corrections, whatever you want will pop out. And you can make your adjustment like you would any other, time like you would in Adobe Camera Raw. Now the thing that kind of irks me is how you get the pictures in here and kind of how it controls you. So what I can do if I want to import some pictures, I can go to File, Import Photos and Video. And you're going to see a couple options pop up. Now this is my file directory. I can go in here and find a file that I want to work with, or you go up here as well. And basically, Lightroom works in catalogs. Basically, the images are imported into the catalog. They're categorized, they're sorted, and edited right there. And you've got a couple different options here. You can add photos to the library like this, but it will actually keep the original file where it already was, whether that was on your hard drive or, for example, an external drive of some kind. Or we can just, move them over. We can delete them on the original and bring all the original photos, everything over to the catalog. Now, probably the way I would do it is because I've got thousands and thousands of images going back years and years, I would probably want to keep my existing files where they are and just import them into Lightroom. That would probably work best for me. But some people might just want to say, let's keep it, it's just move the files into the Lightroom catalog and basically everything will be in one file. Now, the add options sound like a good one, but I like to fool around with my pictures a lot, move them around, and unless I do that specifically in Adobe Lightroom, it's going to cause the Lightroom catalog to give me an error message. It's going to be missing files. Where do they go? So that's a concern for me. And if I were to move all my pictures in there, let's say the Lightroom catalog file, because it's actually a catalog file that it creates. Let's say if that were to become lost or corrupted, well, then everything's gone. So there's some issues there that I don't particularly like. And overall, I really just don't like the interface. There's so much going on here, and Adobe kind of forces you into their way of doing things. I start in the library, here are my pictures. I go over to Develop, I've got that. I kind of find it a little bit slow as well. That has been one criticism of Lightroom. So, it takes, that doesn't sound like very much, but if you are doing this every single day, having to scroll down here, and this may be better on a larger screen, but I think most of us are probably working on laptops for the most part in this day and age, it can just slow you down. That's been a complaint about Lightroom for a while. And I have tested Lightroom going all the way back into 2006 when there was an Adobe beta. So I have seen this program kind of work and work through its paces, and this is the way Adobe kind of forces things upon you, the interface. It's not very customizable. I can make this bigger or smaller, for example, but I'm kind of limited to what I can't really move that. This is kind of stuck over here. Now I do want to discuss some advantages. I can add tags here to the image, and I can go over here and actually search my collection. Let's say I wanted to, this particular park, I could name it and tag these photographs. And then later on I can go and search and just say search for that park's name, and everything would come up. Now that's an advantage, obviously, but again, it's not really working too much for me. And I'm always worried about, is the catalog file going to get corrupted? Is a file going to get misplaced? Those are always the concerns that I have working with Adobe Lightroom. So let me show you the solution that I use that I think, at least for me, works a little bit better. And it's going to start here in Adobe Bridge. And you can see, kind of looks a little bit similar. This is almost like the library mode in Adobe Lightroom. But this Adobe Bridge, basically, we're just looking at the file structure. In this case, I've got my pictures folder and I've got a date there. You can see it up here, and there are the files. Now, if I move every of these files around, no problem. I just navigate to whatever the new file location is, and Adobe Bridge will find it, open it up. We do have some limited cataloging here. You know, I can label it, do a, select approved. I believe there's a way to do a starring system here as well. And I can add some tags, but it's definitely a little bit more limited than Adobe Lightroom. And also the search function is not really too much of that unless you're specifically searching in one folder. I can't search across my entire photo library, for instance. So those are definitely some disadvantages, but there's no import. Basically, I make my own file structure. I've got the date right there, and I dump the files in there and navigate into Bridge, and I'm good to go. Now, how do I edit? Well, basically, I'm going to right-click on the file, and I can go ahead and hit Open in Camera Raw. And this is actually kind of a Photoshop plugin, but you're able to invoke it from inside Adobe Bridge. And to me, this interface is a lot more simple. You notice how quick this is navigating tabs. You remember probably in Lightroom, it took a second for everything to pop up there. And that was definitely a concern that I had. So, we can go in here, we can make it brighter, we can add contrast, clarity, I can warm it up. This is probably a bit too much, but let's say kind of want to make it, a spooky image right there. We can go ahead and do that really, really quick. It's just very easy to make this thing work. So let's say if I wanted to make it really spooky there, I can do that, maybe change my greens around. Everything is just so quick there in this particular image. I can preview it like that. So very, very helpful there, I think. So that's kind of why it works better for me. Now, I will say, probably an advantage of Lightroom is going to be that catalog searching ability, which we do not have in Adobe Bridge. So oftentimes what I will do, I'll actually go into my web browser, and I've got a website, loganimage.com. If you haven't been there, it actually redirects to his Infolio site. But what I will do is actually go in here and say, let's say Craters of the Moon, where was that? I can go in here and see, okay, here's the picture, and I can then actually log in many cases. Sometimes there's a date down here, but I can log into my administrator account and pull up a date, and I can find it in my folder structure. Now, some may say, that's a little bit inconvenient, but again, for me, it works very well. And I do want to discuss just one more thing about Adobe Lightroom that has caused me some concern. A few years ago, they released a new Lightroom program, and it's still called Adobe Lightroom, but basically it is a web-based cloud service. So you open up the program, whether that's on your PC, your Mac, it also works on your phone, it can work on a tablet, and you can do all of your edits in there, and basically your image is saved up onto the Adobe servers or their cloud. And the advantage there is, of course, you can start on your computer, go over to your phone, your tablet, whatever change you make there is then added back into that image you're editing wherever you are. So that's an advantage there. The disadvantage is you then need to pay Adobe for that storage. And of course, images, we can get up into terabytes if you have a lot, and Adobe storage isn't cheap. So that's a concern. Also, the older version of Lightroom, which is still being upgraded, they've called it Adobe Lightroom Classic. And basically, that is the version of Adobe Lightroom where you have the files locally with you, whether that's on an external drive you plug in, or perhaps on your hard drive, what have you there. That has not been updated very much over the last few years. So there is some concern, although Adobe has denied it, that eventually this program is going to be discontinued or phased out, and then you're going to be, basically screwed or something like that. So that's a concern. That's kind of another reason why I like to use Adobe Bridge. It feels like something that's more permanent. Basically, Adobe Creative Suite, all their software, whether that's Photoshop or InDesign or what have you there, they are going to always need a file browser. It makes sense that Adobe would continue to work with that. And this allows me, if I would like in the future, maybe there's a new raw processing program that I like to use. Well, I can very easily transition because I haven't used a proprietary system. It's more of an open source system. In fact, when I edit, and I'll show you right here, in fact, let's go into Finder on the Mac because it actually hides these files here in the program. But you see these XMP files, for example, this is actually from an iPhone. I took these shots, but here's the image underscore 2839.hiac, and then there's this .xmp file right next to it. Those are actually the editing settings that I use, and this is a universal file format. Many programs can actually read this and apply those edits. Now there might be some a little bit of issue there, but there are I wouldn't necessarily have to start from scratch there. So those are a concern. Backup as well. I just back up my folders. I don't have to worry about also backing up the Lightroom catalog, although Adobe does have some options there on how you can actually back up the Lightroom catalog automatically. But anyway, it's a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's necessary. To me, I like the simplicity of Bridge. I've got my camera raw plugin. If I want to save it, I've got a save button right here, what have you. If I hit open image, it opens in Adobe Photoshop. So again, for me that works, but what do you think? I know a lot of people use Lightroom. That's what I say this might be a little bit controversial, but let me know what you think. Do you like Lightroom? Has this made you think differently, or do you say, Logan, I completely disagree, you're wrong? Let me know down in the comments, and we'll see where this journey takes us. Anyway, do appreciate you watching Logan Simmons Photography today. Again, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you have a good one. Bye-bye.